Hey, this is Robin from the Ocean, and you're watching Loud TV. Well, it's great to be back to playing music. Yeah, we took a little bit of a break after the last Pelagial tour we've done in late 2016. We all felt that it's time to do something else for a while. And yeah, so everyone went their ways and did their own thing. And I think that was really necessary and healthy for us as a band. We all had to and wanted to face the question if we still want to do this and how intensely. And I think we all came back to the same conclusion after a while, that it's time to make a new record now, and that fuck yes, we do want to continue, touring and making records. And so yeah, I think it was a very good thing. And the tour has just begun. Yesterday was the first show, and it's really great to be playing new material now. We were a bit tired ourselves also from ourselves, because we've played 300 shows on Pelagial, the previous record, and when you play the same songs in the same order 300 times, you essentially get to the point where you have to do something else. And now we have a bunch of new songs in the set list that we've played live for the first time yesterday, and it feels great to do that. And yeah, so I think the band is in a very strong spot right now. And we're all very, very happy to have the privilege of being in this band that allows us to tour and to travel and to play gigs, and live on a bus for a couple months a year. So we're very grateful for that. Right? Yeah, that was part of the reason why we decided to do it there. We always like to take ourselves out of our homes and comfort zones for recording in order to be really just focused on the music. And the same goes for writing music. I can't really write at home, I have to be in a place that is where there's no distractions somehow. And Iceland was exactly that place. Spectacular scenery. Right behind the studio was a frozen waterfall, and it was just awesome to be in this really inspiring natural environment, which resonates in our music as well, I guess. And the record is a cold, rough album somehow, so we were looking for a place that would match this kind of like vibe of the record, and we came across the studio, which was recommended to us by Shi from the Chinese post-rock band Wangwen. They also made their new record there, and I was speaking to him in January of this year, and he told me about the place, and it sounded really good. So we reached out to them. They had a vacancy that fit into our schedule, and a couple weeks further down the line, we were there making this record, and it was one of the best choices we made. I think we were all really relaxed, and it was the first record I made with Paul, our drummer, who has been in the band since 2014, but it's the first record that he actually plays on. And I think also for us in our communication, it was very good to put ourselves in a beautiful remote place where we are just left with ourselves basically. And yeah, and it came out very, very good. I think it was the right decision to take. It's still all my songs, but all the individual musicians that play on the record, my band members, they have developed their own parts on their respective instruments, which makes it different from the previous record, Pelagial, where I basically wrote everything, including the bass lines and most of the drum parts. Here I resigned control a little bit to the other people playing. Matthias wrote all of the bass lines himself basically, and Paul also wrote a lot of drum patterns and played things differently from what I had initially envisioned. And that was a little difficult for me at first, but I think in the end it contributed really to a record that is more of a collaborative effort where everyone has their part, and I have players in the band that are all outstanding musicians that I can fully trust, and that can bring something to the table that that me not being a drummer can always, you know, provide. So it's great to have this resource of Paul there on drums, who can play anything basically, you know, and sometimes has a quite different perspective of music as compared to myself, and that's very interesting. Then we have to match it and align it, you know, and in the end the result is what matters. And I think we've been very critical with ourselves, not just me but all the other people in the band as well, for this record, and we've really taken time also to let things sink in a bit, and to face the question, is this really like the perfect version of this part, or shall we try something else? And we've done that a lot with this record. It's on one hand quite reduced and minimalist almost with regards to, well, that's an understatement I guess, but like it's a for Ocean standards it's a relatively simple record, let's put it like that. But at the same time we've spent more time than ever before working on the arrangements, on each instrument, especially on the vocals. And I think that altogether the end result is a record that is definitely a more collaborative effort than any of our previous records. Okay. I'm a control freak, so yes, if I don't know the people, I don't have a trust in people. But I know my bandmates very well, and I know Jens Bogren very well now, and we've chosen him for the second time for a reason. He's very good at what he does, and he brings in this external perspective that we just can't have anymore. You know, after working on a record for 2 or 3 months, you totally lose your bird's eye perspective on what you're doing, you know, and you have to kind of like readjust in a way. And for that, it's really helpful when someone comes in with completely fresh ears to offer his external standpoint and his perspective on things. And Jens has been that person with Pelagial already, and with this new record again. And we haven't even sent him the tracks before. He really, like, we delivered him the material to mix, and he had no idea what he would get until that very moment. And I think that was very good, because there were quite a lot of parts where we didn't really even pay attention to certain things anymore, you know. And then he raised a couple of those parts, and we're like, okay, yeah, actually, you know, that should be dealt with somehow. So yeah, it's been very good working with Jens, and when I'm sure that it's the right people, then I don't have a hard time trusting these people. It's just that it's not so easy to find the right people to trust, you know, and that's been a long journey with this band somehow. And I feel that now I'm really closer than ever with regards to not just the band members, but the whole team around it as well. We've been working with Martin Quamme for our past 5 or 6 album artworks. It's a similar creative process, you know, and this guy just knows exactly where I come from, and I shoot him ideas and he sends me back like propositions, and in the end we develop quite spectacular packaging ideas together. It's just a beautiful creative collaboration. So it's not just the band members or the, you know, immediate production team, it's also all the people that are never on stage with us, but at the same time very important for what we do as a band or a collective. And that's also where this collective term comes from. There is also Craig Murray, who made the video clip for Cambrian, and he did the film for Pelagial. Actually, we've been working with him for a while. Like I said, there's Martin Quamme, there's our cello player Dalai, who plays with us quite a lot on record and sometimes live, not on this tour, but it's like a lot of people that belong to us somehow and contribute to this thing that we do, but they're not immediate band members. And with all these people, of course, it's a matter of trust to some degree. I'm not sure if I would call it a love. I'm not even sure if I would call it a passion, I guess to some degree, but well, I find Earth's history particularly interesting, and I also have an interest in philosophy that I've had since I'm a teenager. I was always attracted to, like initially mainly Nietzsche's powerful handling of words, you know, that has always had an impact on me, and at the same time I felt it resonates very well within the context of like heavy music and like powerful, impactful writing of lyrics. So it's been related for me somehow. All the things that I'm interested in, they've always been related somehow. And I don't have a generic interest in science, but particularly Earth's history is very interesting to me personally, and it fits very well to this music that we do. Like when you play heavy sludgy riffs, like when you try to visualize this, a lot of times I just end up in thinking of like prehistoric landscapes and, you know, like volcanoes and streams of lava. It just makes a lot of sense. That's how I initially came up with the whole Precambrian thing, you know, is by trying to visualize our music. And when I was closing my eyes, what I was seeing in front of my inner eye was exactly that. And then that's how we got to that album cover and artwork. And that is in some way true to Phanerozoic I, Paleozoic, the new record as well, because it continues where Precambrian left off. It just makes sense within the context of heavy music somehow. Yeah, one of the kind of like red thread that goes through the record is the idea of eternal recurrence. It's a term that Nietzsche used, but actually it's as old as humanity. It was found in old Hindi writings. The Egyptians had it, and then it was kind of forgotten with the arrival of Christianity, because the idea of eternal recurrence, the fact that things repeat over and over again, was not really, that bears a certain element of arbitrariness, you know, and randomness, and it wasn't really in line with the Christian idea of like one unique creation, like made by one God, basically. And so yeah, it kind of disappeared from Occidental thinking for a while, and then Nietzsche was an avid fan of the idea, and he brought it back basically. And the lyrics to the first track of the record, Cambrian, Eternal Recurrence, they are original texts from Nietzsche actually. If you look at the Phanerozoic to relate it into the whole album context and the geological theme, you find countless evidence for the idea of eternal recurrence. Continents have drifted apart and collided and formed supercontinents and drifted apart again. We've seen 5 mass extinction events where almost all life almost disappeared from Earth, but it always also came back, you know, and we've seen coral reefs disappear from the face of the Earth entirely, but then they came back in different parts and all of this. So all of this kind of like reinforces the idea of eternal recurrence, that things happen over and over again. And if you look at our personal lifespans, we all can relate to that as well. You know, the experience, this type of déjà vu experiences, you know, that we've been there before, we've had this before. And this is kind of like the recurring theme of the record somehow, that is kind of like touched upon in all the lyrics of the first record and will also reappear in the second part.